Welcome to our cinematic spelunking expedition through the eerie underworld of Canadian horror from the 1970s, where polite society ends and the blood-curdling weirdness begins. These are not your average slasher flicks or tired tales of ghosts in creaky houses. No, today we're spotlighting 5 peculiar, provocative, and wildly unpredictable horror films that simmered north of the border before exploding into Canada's chilling cinematic legacy. If you've ever found yourself digging through horror archives looking for something that creeps under your skin without following the rules, you're in the right place. Stick with us till the end, and you might just discover your next favorite cult classic. Oh, and if this list tickles your frontal lobe just right, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill, but it seriously helps more than maple syrup on pancakes. Let's kick things off with The House by the Lake, a film that dares to ask, what if Deliverance took place in Ontario with fewer banjos but more sports cars? This home invasion thriller pivots around Diane, a high-end model with a sharp mind and a sharper attitude, who agrees to spend a weekend at a luxurious rural estate with a sleazy dentist named Harry. Plot twist, a gang of violent goons crashes the party. A casual flirtation quickly spirals into a tense game of survival as Diane turns from potential victim to fiercely inventive avenger. This film gleefully swerves expectations. Not only does it take the male fantasy and run it off the road, but it also features some of the most unnerving sequences of menace you'll find in 70s cinema. There's no musical score, just the oppressive sound of footsteps, breathing, and muffled screams. The direction is stripped down but razor-sharp, making the violence feel disturbingly intimate. Often overshadowed by louder exploitation films of the era, The House by the Lake is a taut, unflinching ride.
This man and this woman are off to play house for a couple of days. The only trouble is, they're going to spend it in the house by the lake, miles from anywhere and anyone. But that's where the beauty ends and the nightmare begins. A house of secrets, a house of evil. The House by the Lake, inhabited by a power that enslaves all who enter. Starring Brenda Vaccaro and Don Stroud. The House by the Lake.
Before Ivan Reitman was giving us ghost traps and proton packs in Ghostbusters, he was dishing out something far greasier and more bizarre, Cannibal Girls. Imagine a horror comedy where you're never quite sure if the laugh track is broken or if it was just never invited in the first place. This delightfully low-budget oddity stars Eugene Levy and Andrea Martin as a couple who make the questionable life choice of stopping in the wrong rural town. Their hosts are a trio of irresistibly seductive women with a penchant for cooking meat. Human meat. The film is as much a parody as it is a loving homage to grindhouse horror, complete with deliberately cheesy dialogue, exaggerated zoom-ins, and a warning bell that rang in theaters to signal impending gore, so the squeamish could look away. Somehow, that makes it even creepier. It's campy, it's unpolished, it's as Canadian as poutine in a haunted diner. Yet underneath the surface-level absurdity, Cannibal Girls cleverly pokes fun at gender roles, horror tropes, and consumer culture.
Strangers who stopped for lunch ended up staying for dinner. Cannibal Girls.
In the morning waken.
They love every man they meet. First to death, then for dinner.
All we ever do around here is cook and eat. Food can be a marvelous appetizer.
I'm looking forward to the main course myself.
Cannibal Girls.
Now let's descend into murkier stuff. The Pix is less bloodbath and more slow burn, but oh boy does it burn. Directed by Harvey Hart and based on the novel by John Buell, this occult-tinged murder mystery stands out for its bleak atmosphere and methodical pacing. It opens with a prostitute plunging to her death from a Montreal high-rise. Was it suicide? Or something even more sinister? Enter Detective Jim Henderson, played with brooding precision by Christopher Plummer, who starts peeling back the layers of this case, discovering threads of Satanism, ritual sacrifice, and a haunting descent into despair. Karen Black delivers a deeply vulnerable performance as the doomed woman, alternating between flashbacks that feel like emotional autopsies. There's a grim poetry to the way the Pyx unravels. It's as much about moral decay as it is about murder. The film isn't here to startle you with cheap thrills. It wants to slowly pull you into a pit of existential dread, like a noir detective story dosed with black magic. Critics at the time weren't sure what to make of it. Today, it's an underappreciated gem that rewards viewers who lean into its bleakness.
She has a date with the Pyx.
It's a Pyx.
Pigs? What the hell's a pigs?
Haven't noticed that before?
Well, I've been a cop 23 years. I don't know what that means.
There is no escape for Elizabeth.
Take your clothes off.
I don't feel very well. What's wrong with me?
Starring Karen Black and Christopher Plummer.
I sought him, but I found him not.
You may think you've seen every take on Ed Gein, the notorious killer who inspired everything from Psycho to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But Deranged takes a very different route. It's like stumbling into a taxidermy shop run by your lonely uncle who really wants to show you his collection. Co-directed by Jeff Gillen and Alan Ormsby, the film stars Robert Blossom, best known as the old man in Home Alone, as Ezra Cobb, a gentle, sad-eyed man with mommy issues so profound they practically deserve their own movie. After his mother dies, Ezra decides the grave just isn't enough separation and promptly digs her up, because nothing says love like embalming your mom in the kitchen. The film is loosely structured like a faux documentary, with a deadpan narrator guiding us through the increasingly grotesque behavior of Ezra as he transitions from grave robber to full-blown murderer. It's disturbing, yes, but also darkly comical in a way that sneaks up on you like a cold draft in a meat locker. What makes Deranged particularly unsettling is its refusal to sensationalize. It presents horror as something banal, rural, and weirdly domestic. It's uncomfortable, unforgettable, and absolutely essential viewing for horror fans who think they've seen it all.
This is where the worst begins. This is where we must stop. For beyond is the work of madness. Death! The deranged. For Mary, it was only the beginning. For Christine, it was already too late, and only Mrs. Cobb knew what he would do next. Sometimes you don't want to believe what you see, but sometimes it's true. When the horror becomes unbearable, it is too late to scream.
And now, we arrive at the top. David Cronenberg's Shivers, also known under the less subtle title, They Came From Within. This film put Canadian horror on the map. Funded in part by the Canadian government, a decision they regretted after public backlash, Shivers is a chaotic, perverse, and brilliant debut from the future master of body horror. Set in a sterile high-rise apartment complex in Montreal, the film introduces us to a genetically engineered parasite that turns its hosts into hypersexual, hyperviolent zombies. Yes, it's as disgusting as it sounds, and that's the point. Cronenberg uses infection as metaphor for societal rot, repression, and the fragility of civilized behavior. The building itself becomes a petri dish of taboo-breaking chaos. And what's more terrifying than losing your mind? Losing control of your body in a building where everyone else already has. Clinical but feral, sterile but repulsive, Shivers is a beautiful contradiction. It was reviled by some critics, but over time, its reputation has grown like the parasite at its core, insidious, unstoppable, and strangely fascinating. It's not just a film, it's a manifesto of flesh.
If you think you're not afraid of the dark, if you think you have a strong stomach, if you feel nothing can shock you, if you say you don't scare easily, if you believe you've seen everything, then prepare yourself for a motion picture that takes you beyond fear. beyond the power of priest or science to exorcise. What are they? Bloodthirsty creatures that must be killed, or incarnations of absolute evil? No one is safe from them. No power on earth can stop them. If this picture doesn't make you scream and squirm, you'd better see a psychiatrist. Quick.
So, what did we miss? If there's a 70s Canadian horror movie you think should have made this list, drop it in the comments and tell us why we're criminally wrong. We love unearthing forgotten films, and your suggestions might end up in our next video. And hey, if you like this deep dive into Northern Nightmares, don't forget to check out our horror movie playlists. We've got lists for every kind of fright fan, from supernatural screams to grindhouse grotesqueries. Thanks for watching, and remember, the real horror is not subscribing.